Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Friday, the 20th of January, comes to you from Geneva in Switzerland. I'm here seeing some clients this morning, and I start by looking at currencies, then we'll look at stock markets and some commodities, and finally some US tech stocks. Not a lot of change overnight, pretty well everywhere actually. It's fairly benign ahead of the US election inauguration. I'm using Thomson Reuters Icon here this morning. Again, I'm on my laptop, so I use Icon on my laptop and Bloomberg on my desktop, but of course Updata is compatible with lots of different systems. So we start by looking at the dollar index, and we see here that we are just turning bullish here on the cloud. So I guess the key feature here is that the dollar might, after some of the uncertainty around the last week or two, might be just moving into a positive phase in the short term. And if we look at the euro, we see that it did dip below, but although we're just sort of testing the cloud resistance at the moment, it does look like the euro might just actually get back above there. But of course, still pretty bearish on all of these charts. We do have this new downside target of 105, but we do have some support. So it may not show its hand this week, but next week we'll probably find out whether the euro is going higher or lower, whether that dollar strength is kicking back. And if we look at the Japanese yen, we see the rise in the dollar here very clearly. So here the dollar has turned bullish. It tends to show up in this chart first. New upside target of 121, that's 5% if we go higher than that 115 high. So pretty significant here. We are seeing that dollar strength just kicking through. Taking a look at sterling, of course, sterling had a very volatile start to the week, but we flattened out at around the 123, 124 level. And at the moment, sterling is in a bullish phase in the short term, but no real clear upside targets and lots of downside targets still hanging over us. And when we did see that move on Monday, we did activate further downside targets. So although we've got a little bit of respite just showing up here in the 60-minute chart, this has been quite a week where we have touched new lows, and new lows, of course, are bad. And if we look at euro sterling, we see here how sterling has just strengthened slightly against the euro as well. And then if we look at euro Swiss franc, quite appropriate for me as I'm in Switzerland at the moment and noticing how expensive everything is. That's showing here that sterling is just recovering very slightly, but we were down to as low as 120 there in the start of the week. And the Australian dollar, just another proxy for sterling, is up to 163, having been as low as 161, but still pretty bearish on the long and long and medium term charts. Taking a look at stock markets, we start by looking at the S&P 500, sold off 8 points overnight, so nothing dramatic. Still holding its bullish position short term, just upside targets activated still. So I think we've seen a bit of a slow end to the week, but at the moment we're still bullish on most charts. And looking at the Nasdaq 100, much the same picture here, clearly above the chart here. Upside targets of 2%. So Nasdaq looking pretty strong. The Russell 2000 did have a pullback last night of about 1%. So smaller caps are selling off a bit here, although we're not really breaking down yet out of this range, but we do have some downside targets there. So Russell, having run a long way at the start of November after the election, are just pulling back, and the same is true of the Dow as well. We're just sort of topping out a bit here and turning over on the on the daily chart. We see here on the weekly chart, on the 60-minute chart, we are bearish as well, but no real downside targets to worry about. The futures market's up very slightly this morning. FTSE yesterday was down 0.5%, as was the UK 250. We are just seeing a pullback here after an amazing run of really almost 2 months. We're just seeing that sell-off. We're below the cloud, but no real downside targets anywhere to speak of, so not that worrying. And we take a look at Xetra DAX. Very small change yesterday, but barely unchanged. And we see here we're just in a bit of a chop at the moment, but it's still looking pretty bullish all round on these long-term charts. Just remember the short-term picture will change to and fro all the time, so we just need to be aware that those long-term charts will eventually dominate and kick back in. And we see here on the Hang Seng, we were down 0.2%, but that's not really changed much on that short-term chart as well. And the Australian market down just over 0.5%, so we are just seeing a pullback here, but again, lots of upside targets which we talk of each day. We are just in a bearish phase at the moment. Most markets just undergoing a little bit of a sell-off as we end the week. And we see here Brent crude is bearish on the short term as well. We're at the sort of 54 level. And WTI, much the same picture, but the long-term charts are still pretty bullish. So we shouldn't be surprised to see that cycling into a bullish phase again. And US nat gas has been down a couple of percent this morning. Is back into a bearish phase short term. Just a lot of volatility showing through there as well. Taking a look at gold, we see here gold just did pull back a bit, so we did have a little bit of short-term weakness, but we look to be holding back into the cloud here, and we've got quite a few upside targets, 1 to 12.70 now, so quite a lot to play for. We do have a downside target as well to 11.68, but we are seeing quite a lot of support building here on gold, and this recovery, these thrusts will give us new upside targets. We just need to see where those columns lock out, so that's pretty key as well. The US Treasury notes the yield is on the 10-year is still 2.46%, bullish on all three time frames at the moment, so yield's still holding up. And if we look at some of the tech stocks, Apple down very, very slightly last night, so no real big deal there. Amazon continues to power ahead, up 0.5% overnight, so we're just seeing here that we're bullish and back through on the daily, so that's really quite encouraging. And Facebook just holding this high 120s position. Again, the Nasdaq was down, but Facebook was just up, and we're just wandering through on the cloud here as well. So quite a few tech stocks recovering into bullish territory here, so that's pretty good for the market in general. That's it for today. Until Monday, have a great weekend. Happy charting. See you then.